Join Forum IAS Academy, trusted by hundreds of toppers, including IAS Rank 1 Shruti Sharma.
Hi, my name is Krishnan. These are the 5 articles that we'll be seeing today, and towards the end we'll analyze previous year questions. Now let us directly go to the first article. The first article is about corals, and coral is one of the most favorite topics for UPSC from both prelims and mains perspective. So let us analyze it. So researchers, what have they found is they wanted to mitigate, that is reduce human impacts on land and sea, and surprisingly what they found that the coral loss reduced. This reduction of coral loss was there even in spite of the fact there was marine heat wave in Hawaii. So even in spite of the heat waves, coral loss was less. So what does the finding show? It shows the potential of combined management strategies to protect coral reefs. So basically what scientists are telling is coral reef ecosystems are impacted by human activity only mostly, but they are not just confined to sea. It is based on what humans are doing on land also. So there is human activity disturbance on land, sea. What are the land-based disturbances? Wastewater pollution, sea-based disturbances like overfishing. So that is why what is happening? Coral loss is there. What are the human impacts? Because of human impacts, what is happening? Prolonged periods of warm ocean temperatures. This is called as marine heat waves. This is also causing chloral bleaching and death of corals. So scientist Jamison Go from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, he's done surveys of reef change with 20-year time series. So what did he found? He's telling there's unprecedented marine heat wave in Hawaii in 2015, and the ocean temperatures were 2.2 degrees Celsius higher than normal. What are the human impacts that were troubling the coral reefs? The human impacts were urban runoff. That is, urban runoff means sewage water and all those things. Wastewater pollution and fishing, overfishing. So all these problems were affecting corals. So what they have found throughout the study period, how long was the study period? For 20 years. So what they found, reef cover increased in some areas, decreased in some areas, or remained stable in some areas. Reef with mitigated land. So here there was some mitigation, and here what did they found? Sea-based human impacts showed increased coral cover before the heat wave and reduced coral loss during heat wave. So I hope you are able to understand this. And next what they are telling, reefs with more herbivorous fishes and exposure to a fewer land-based human impacts had increased their reef bill cover, and more of the types of coral essential to reef growth, like 4 years after the disturbance, compared with reefs with reduced fish populations and exposure to more land-based human impacts. So what they are telling, reefs which had more of land-based human impacts showed little reef growth, while reefs which had only fish and exposure to fewer land-based human impacts had increased the reef bill cover. So what did the authors finally tell? They are telling that they are asking to reduce land and sea based human impacts, and what they are telling, this land and sea based human impacts is resulting in a 3 to 6 fold greater probability of a reef having higher reef bill cover 4 years after a disturbance. So finally what they are telling, that the results reveal that integrated land sea management could help achieve coastal ocean conservation goals and provide coral reefs with the best opportunity to persist in a changing climate. Now let us see the basics of coral. How are corals formed? you all know coral polyps are tiny, fleshy sea anemones, and they live in tropical and subtropical ocean areas. And you should know this, they live in shallow waters only, they can't live in deep waters, and they exist along with something called as the 𝐒𝐶𝐻𝐬𝐵, which is a microscopic algae, and they are in symbiotic relationship. So this algae has photosynthesis abilities, which will feed the coral polyps with carbon compounds, and they will give them energy, and in turn the polyps provide protection to 𝐒𝐶𝐻𝐬𝐵. So coral reefs are formed when the freely moving larvae of corals attach themselves to sedimentary rocks or hard surfaces near the coastlines. So this process will happen with several other processes like sedimentation, compaction, cementation and solidification. So all this together should take place, and then coral reefs will form. So where are coral reefs found in India? India has 7,500 km of coastline, and 6,100 km represents the mainland coastline. And what are the three major types of coral reefs found in India? They are fringing, barrier and atolls. In India, they are found in a lot of areas, including the Gulf of Kutch, Gulf of Mannar, Park Bay, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, and Lakshadweep Islands. And the Gulf of Kutch in the northwest has some of the most northerly reefs in the world. So, in the northern part of the earth, you can these are one of the northernmost reefs that you can find. And other coral reefs are found in Ratnagiri, Malvan, Redi, South Bombay, and all these places. Even in Mangalore, you can find them. So have a look at this map. You see all these areas you have in both the coastal sides you have coral reefs. So what are the conditions that are necessary for the growth of coral reefs? There should be shallow water that we saw. So coral reefs will grow only in the shallow parts of the water, and the surface of the reef shouldn't be more than 80 meters from the water surface. So this is very important. And 𝐒𝐶𝐻𝐬𝐵, because the 𝐒𝐶𝐻𝐬𝐵 needs adequate sunlight for photosynthesis process, they should have shallow water. And semi-hard or hard surface, because the 𝐒𝐶𝐻𝐬𝐵 should stick to the surface, right? So they should have semi-hard or hard surface. Once they find that hard surface, there will be compaction, cementation and solidification. Next, you need clear water. So what will happen? If clear water is not there, there will be sediment filled waters and coral polyps will die. They cannot live in opaque waters. Why? Because opaque water limits the passage of sunlight. So because of that, photosynthesis cannot happen. Next, they need warm water. So this is also very important. Coral reefs are directly connected with warm oceanic currents, and the temperature should be around 20 degrees. That is why coral reefs are generally on the eastern coast of the continent. But if you see in India, it's just the opposite, because in the eastern waters are filled with high amounts of sediment matter. Next is saline filled waters. So it should be slight salt should be there in ocean waters. In potable water, clean water, fresh water, coral reefs cannot be born. So slight salt in ocean water is required, and the polyps extract calcium from the waters to protect their skeletons. So that is why salinity is necessary for corals to flourish. Next, you need a rich supply of nutrients. So they grow in sea waters because ocean waves support constant supply of rich nutrients. So that is why coral polyps multiply faster when supplied with nutrients. So why is the survival of corals and coral reefs important to human and marine life? The health of the marine ecosystem is dependent on corals, because you see it's like a win-win situation. Corals survive, marine ecosystem survives, marine ecosystem survives, coral survives, and they support a wide range of ecosystem, and they are called rainforest of the ocean. Next is corals provide a place to live for a huge variety of fish, and corals are the primary source of food in the marine ecosystem. So this is why survival of corals and coral reef is very important to human and marine life. So what are the other significance that coral reefs have? They protect the coastal areas. So whenever there is storms, cyclones or huge waves, coral reefs act as a natural barrier for them to come and attack India. So that is why they are important, and they are food source, that you know, because they are healthy source of protein for fishes, and billions of people in India are relying on fish, so they are the source of food. So next is medicinal properties. You know, coral reefs, because of their medicinal properties, they have a lot of significance. And for meteorology also. So what a new study by the Indian Institute of Meteorology has stated is that we are using corals, you can find the pattern of the onset and withdrawal of Indian monsoons. Next, you know, tourism. You know, countries like Australia and all, they are dependent on the Great Barrier Reef. So a lot of people go to Australia to see it. So tourism also, it plays a very important role. So that is why the value of coral reefs was 10 billion, and the direct economic benefits were 360 million per year. So these are the significance of coral reefs. Now let us move on to the next article. This article is about government planning a law on production of Indian manuscripts. So now let us see the article. So first they are talking about the Bakshali manuscript. So why is this very famous? Because it is an ancient Indian mathematical text written on birk bark. So this is considered to be the earliest recorded example of the use of zero. So you keep this in mind, this can actually come as a prelims option. So it is the Bakshali manuscript. So when are they dating this text to? They are dating it back to 3rd or 4th century AD, and it is in the libraries of one of it's in Oxford University, and many other Indian manuscripts are in libraries across the globe, or private collectors have it both in India and abroad. So what the Culture Ministry is going to do, they are going to introduce the National Manuscripts Bill in the winter session of Parliament. So what is the primary aim of the bill? The primary aim of the bill is to document and catalog Indian heritage texts wherever they may be, in India or abroad, and they are going to maintain accurate and up-to-date information about them, and they are going to collect details, and they are going to talk about the conditions under which they may be consulted. So what else the bill is going to do? It is going to set up a 10-member National Manuscripts Authority. So the Culture Minister will be the chairperson of this body, and the members will include the Secretaries of Culture, Finance, Education, Vice Chancellor of Central Sanskrit University, and special invitees representing the states and private agencies. So the National Manuscripts Authority will be the apex policy making body with regard to digitization, conservation, preservation, editing, and publication work of the manuscripts. So you see, this is very unique to India. So India possesses an estimated 10 million manuscripts in 80 ancient scripts. So 10 million manuscripts in 80 ancient scripts. What are the scripts? Brahmi, 𝐒𝐮𝐻, Gaudi, Lepcha, Maithili. So who says that? Says the National Mission for Manuscripts. So this National Mission for Manuscripts is an autonomous body under the Ministry of Culture. So they only preserve the manuscript wealth of the country. So the National Manuscript Authority will have the powers of a civil code. So you might have already studied in polity what are the powers of a civil code. So they will have the powers of a civil code to regulate the allocation of access to manuscripts, and they will also have an investigation wing for the purpose of conducting an inquiry into thefts and desecration of text. So desecration means if someone is spoiling it or damaging it, that is desecration. And it will also ensure that the manuscripts are not lost by damage or theft, and it can collaborate with universities and other educational institutions or agencies to provide fellowships and scholarships for study of manuscripts. Next, what the NMA will also prepare a dedicated digital portal for indexing, cataloging, uploading, and downloading copies of manuscripts. Next, the body will be vested with the right to take over a manuscript from private owner based on the uniqueness and importance of the content. So this is also very important. So the amount that will be paid to the collector will be fixed by the expert committee. So this is what the paper says. So initially manuscripts are written on materials such as palm leaves, paper, cloth, bark, and the themes range from history, religion, literature, astrology, agriculture, so on and so forth. So 75% of the existing manuscripts are in Sanskrit and 25% are in regional languages. Now what they are telling, there's a need to link studying and interpreting of manuscripts with livelihood. So the director says only then we can bring the importance of ancient manuscripts into the socio-cultural milieu. And this telling the documentation of Indian manuscripts, even the manuscripts that are in the foreign nations, will give a boost to an increased global interest in Indian manuscripts. So far they have digitized 3.3 lakh manuscripts, which has about 3.1 crore folios. And more than 1.18 lakh manuscripts have been uploaded, and only about 70,000 have been made available online for public access. Now let us move on to the next article. This article is about Sant Ravidas. So what has happened? Prime Minister has laid the foundation stone for a temple dedicated to Sant Ravidas. So who is he? He is a 14th century poet and social reformer. He is revered by the scheduled caste in north and central India. So this temple is going to be built at an estimated 100 crore rupees in Sagar, Madhya Pradesh. And the Prime Minister has said that Dalits, backward classes, tribal communities are the biggest beneficiaries of all the schemes of the government. And he's telling the country is running for the welfare of the poor. So he's telling the country right now stands with Dalits, deprived sections, backward classes, tribal people, women, and is telling the government would support them in their hopes and aspirations. And Samrasta Yatra. So Samrasta Yatra means harmony yatras. So this is the BJP has done, and they've reached out to a lot of scheduled caste in the pole bound state. So the Prime Minister has made a reference to Mughals with respect to Sant Ravidas. So what he is telling, Sant Ravidas was born in the period when the country was ruled by Mughals and the society was grappling with instability, oppression and tyranny. And what is telling, during the Mughal period, the beliefs of local people were being attacked and restricted, and there were attempts made to erase their identity. And Sant Ravidas said, if you are subservient, it is the biggest sin. So what is subservient? Subservient means being submissive to someone very dominant, not questioning them. That is subservience. So he's telling, Sant Ravidas said, don't be subservient to the Mughals. So what else is telling? He's telling the poet stood against institutional caste hierarchy, and he's telling Sant Ravidas fought social evils and even awakened the society. So now let us see in detail about Sant Ravidas. So he is called Ravidas or Ravidas. He was an Indian mystic poet saint of the Bhakti movement, and he was the founder of the Ravidasya religion. This religion was formed during the 15th to 16th century. He is venerated as a guru in the modern regions of Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Punjab and Haryana. He was a poet, social reformer and a spiritual figure. But the life details of Ravidas are uncertain and contested. Some say he was born in Varanasi into a untouchable leatherworking Chamar caste, and he valued the worship of a formless god, so Nirgun. And Ravidas' devotional verses were included in the Sikh scriptures known as Guru Granth Sahib. And the Panchvani text of the Dadupanthi tradition within Hinduism also includes numerous poems of Ravidas. And he taught removal of social divisions of caste, gender, and promoted unity in the pursuit of personal spiritual freedom. So see, personal spiritual freedom. And along with Kabir, he was one of the most noted disciples of Bhagat Ramanand. So who was Ramanand? He was the guru of Kabir Das, Ravidas, Meera, for everybody. He was the guru, and he was the bridge between South India and North India for Bhakti movement. So Bhakti movement in North started with Bhagat Ramanand. And 41 verses of Bhakti Ravidas are incorporated into Sikh's religious book Adi Granth. And he was vocal against the Varna system, and he imagined an egalitarian society called Begampura, which means land without sorrow. And his disciples came to be known as Ravidas Panthis, and followers came to be known as Ravidasyas. And he also mentioned about Sahaj. Sahaj means a mystical state where there is a union of truths of the many and the one. So what seems as many is actually one. So he's telling in this Sahaj mystical state you can actually realize it. So who are the Ravidasyas? Ravidasyas are a Dalit community, and close to 12 lakh of them live in the Doaba region. And there's something called as Dera Sachkhand Balan. It is their largest Dera with 20 lakh followers worldwide. So who founded? It was founded by Baba Sant Pipal Das. It has 20 lakh followers. Once it was closely connected with Sikhism, but the Dera severed these decade-old ties in 2010 and announced they would follow a separate religion called the Ravidasya religion. And the announcement was made on Guru Ravidas Jayanti in Varanasi. From 2010, the Dera Sachkhand Balan started replacing the Guru Granth Sahib with its own Granth Amritvani, carrying 200 hymns of Guru Ravidas in Ravidasya temples and Gurudwaras. Now let us move on to the next article. This article is about Asian Highway. So why we picked up Asian Highway is, so you see what has happened. People trying to flee Moreh, where the violence broke out, they are hiding in jungles. They are hiding in forest which runs across the Asian Highway. So this is what this article talks about. So in early May, when violence broke out in Moreh, so Moreh is a commercial town in Manipur bordering Myanmar. So this has had a cascading effect, and 230 Indian nationals from the Meitei ethnic group went across the border. So what they are doing with little time to think, they thought they had escaped, but they have been stranded in the jungle. So this jungle runs through the Asian Highway 1. This connects Tokyo to Turkey. So this is currently surrounded by the 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐫𝐢𝐻 tribes, and the ethnic conflict has impacted 60,000 people across the state. So let us see about the Asian Highway Network. So it's also known as the Great Asian Highway. It is a cooperative project among countries in Asia and UNESCAP. So this is done to improve the connectivity via highway systems. So and it is one of the 3 pillars of the Asian Land Transport Infrastructure Development Project. It is endorsed by the UNESCAP Commission at its 48th session in 1992. It comprises Asian Highway, Trans-Asian Railway and facilitation of land transport projects. And agreements have been signed by 32 countries to allow the highway to cross the continent and also reach to Europe. Some of the countries taking part in the highway project are India under its Look East connectivity project, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, China, Iran, Japan, South Korea, Nepal and Bangladesh. And most of the funding comes from the larger, more advanced Asian nations such as China, South Korea and Singapore, as well as international agencies such as the Asian Development Bank and the Asian Infrastructure Investment. Now let us move on to the next article. This article talks about El Nino, and it says North India is more affected by El Nino. So let us analyze it. So ahead of every monsoon, what do meteorologists do is they keep track of the temperatures in the central and eastern Pacific Ocean. Why? Because 6 in 10 years, a half degree or more rise in El Nino. If it corresponds, what will happen? There will be diminished rainfall in India. The converse of it is La Nina, which will lead to increased rainfall. And a study also suggested that this cyclical swing called the El Nino Southern Oscillation affects vast regions of India differently. Now let us analyze all these geographical terms. So since 1981, what they have found is monsoon rainfall over central India, known as the monsoon core zone, and in this place the agriculture is largely rain fed. So what they have found here is this region, monsoon core zone is getting disassociated from the ENSO, with only 10% of droughts or excess rain is linked to ENSO fluctuations. So what is ENSO fluctuations? We'll see. On the other hand, ENSO linked to North India was strengthening with 70% rainfall fluctuations linked to ENSO cycle. So North India is getting more affected, not the monsoon core zone, that is the central India. And in southern India, the relationship has remained largely stable. So, what has the past research into monsoon patterns have shown? They have suggested that weakening of the relationship between ENSO and monsoon. So, even in this survey, that is what they are telling. Since 1991, there has been weakening of the relationship between ENSO and monsoon. So, what scientists are telling, we noticed that the ENSO ISMR inverse relationship started getting stronger from 1901 to 1940, and it became stable from 1941 to 80, and then the relationship has weakened in the recent epoch. So, this is what they are trying to say. So, monsoon rainfall, you all know it accounts for 80% of India's rainfall. This is influenced by two broad factors. So, what are they? One is the impact of ENSO, which influences the trade winds and their ability to carry warm moisture towards India around monsoon. What is the other one? The other one is the monsoon trough. So what is this? This is an elongated low pressure area which extends from over Pakistan to Bay of Bengal. So what happens? This trough swings between north and South India through the monsoon, bringing rain wherever it is active. And how does it get moisture? It gets moisture from the Bay of Bengal. So this moisture, this getting of moisture in the form of low level cyclone is called depressions. And now let us see what is the analysis with regard to rise in temperature. The last few decades, the role of climate change has dramatically increased ocean temperatures, and especially in the Indian Ocean. So this is leading to a lot of depressions that are formed during the season, and consequently rain over central India. But what they have found is these depressions weren't reaching out as strongly towards North India as it was in the past. So what they are telling, consequently this has left it more vulnerable to the impact from El Nino, which is known to affect the trade winds and monsoon circulation over India. So this is how El Nino will do. It will affect the trade winds that are coming to India. So for the rainfall over South India, the influence of ENSO and the strength of monsoon trough have been consistent. So no major changes were found with regard to South India. So accounting for the regional variation of the effect of El Nino, they are telling this would improve the accuracy of monsoon forecast. So they are telling the ENSO dominance over the core monsoon zone is weak, which means that the prediction over this region has become less predictable in the recent decades. So they are telling instead of seeing ENSO, we will monitor other factors like Indian Ocean warming and the core monsoon zone, its impact on the strength of the monsoon trough and depressions. So now what they are telling, El Nino is forming in the Pacific, and it is likely to strengthen in the coming months, and this will influence the monsoon rainfall in August and September. So what is El Nino? El Nino is the name given to the occasional development of warm ocean surface waters along the coast of Ecuador and Peru. I'll show you the diagram in the next slide. So El Nino is the warm ocean surface water along the coast of Ecuador and Peru. So why is this not good? Means when this warming occurs, usually what will happen? When this warming happens, cold nutrient rich deep ocean water is significantly reduced. So, and when does El Nino occur? It occurs during Christmas, and it usually lasts for a few weeks and for a few months. But sometimes an extremely warm event can develop, and it can last for longer time periods. So in the 1990s, what happened? Strong El Ninos developed in 91 that lasted till 95, and which started from 97, lasted till spring 1998. So what this El Nino actually does, what do you know? In normal year, what will happen? Surface low pressure will develop in the region of northern Australia and Indonesia, and high pressure over the coast of Peru. So see, here low pressure, here high pressure, and cold current will be here. So this is what happens normally. So what happens as a result? The trade winds over Pacific Ocean move strongly from the east to west. Then what will happen? The easterly flow of the trade winds will carry warm surface water westwards. So I'll show you it in the warm waters will travel this way, and once the warm waters are here, cold water which are down will come upstairs. So the easterly flow of the trade wind carries warm surface waters westward, which will bring convective storms to Indonesia and coastal Australia. Next, what they are telling, along the coast of Peru, what will happen? Cold bottom, cold nutrient rich water wells up. This will come up to the surface, and this will replace the warm water that is pulled to the west. So you can understand this from the diagram. So this is called the Walker circulation. So the scientists are telling this is caused by the pressure gradient force that results from the high pressure system over the eastern Pacific Ocean and low pressure system over Indonesia. So what happens in an El Nino year? Air pressure drops over large areas of the central Pacific and along the coast of South America. And what happens? The normal low pressure system is replaced by a weak high in the western Pacific. And this change is pressure pattern. This change in the pressure pattern causes the trade winds to be reduced, and this will result in weak Walker cell. And sometimes the Walker cell even gets reversed. And this will lead to what? This will lead to equatorial countercurrent. So here what will happen? This will accumulate warm ocean water along the coastlines of Peru and Ecuador. So warm water is supposed to go to the west side, but this will get accumulated in the eastern coastline itself. See, warm water will stagnate here itself. So this accumulation of warm water will cause the thermocline to drop in the eastern part of the Pacific Ocean, and this will cut off the upwelling of cold deep ocean water along the coast of Peru. So climatically what will happen? The development of El Nino will bring drought to the western Pacific, rains to the equatorial coast of South America, and convective storms and hurricanes to the central Pacific. So what are the effects of El Nino? The warmer waters will have a devastating effect on marine life. In fact, where this will happen? Off the coast of Peru and Ecuador. So, and fish catches off the coast of South America will also reduce because of no upwelling of cold water, and severe droughts in Australia, Indonesia, India and Southern Africa, and heavy rains in California, Ecuador and the Gulf of Mexico. So if you see in the map, you will understand where there will be drought and where there will be rainfall. Now let us move on to previous year questions. So the question is at one of the places in India, if you stand on the seashore and watch the sea, you will find that the seawater recedes from the shoreline a few kilometers and comes back to the shore twice a day. And you can actually walk on the seafloor when the water recedes. This unique phenomenon is seen at, the answer is C, Chandipur. With reference to Manipuri Sankirtanas, consider the following statements. It's a song and dance performance. Yes. Cymbals are the only musical instruments used in the performance. No, cymbals and dole, all these things are used. So second is wrong. It is performed to narrate the life and deeds of Lord Krishna. So answer is B, 1 and 3. Third option is also right. One of the implications of equality in society is the absence of, this easy question, privileges. From the ecological point of view, which one of the following assumes importance in being a good link between the Eastern Ghats and the Western Ghats? So the answer is A, Satyamangalam Tiger Reserve. So I hope you enjoyed learning this. If you liked it, you can share this video among your friends. You can comment and subscribe the channel. You can also follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Telegram and Facebook. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you again tomorrow.